We are continuing our Marvel Marathon Madness with 2005 Man-Thing, a monster horror film based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name. The film follows a Louisiana sheriff as he investigates a series of deaths when workers of an oil tycoon vanish while exploring a swamp marked for drilling, which leads to his encounter with a Seminole legend that came to life in the form of the mythical creature Man-Thing. So, let us go ahead and jump straight into the plot. At Dark Waters, which is a Native American sacred land containing an enigmatic swamp spirit, a teenager is murdered by a plant-like monster. The following day, young replacement sheriff Kyle Williams reaches Bywater and meets with Deputy Sheriff Frazier, who tells him that the previous sheriff is among the 47 people that went missing ever since oil tycoon Fred Schist bought the ancient tribal lands from shaman and Seminole chieftain Ted Salas, who was the first to disappear. Schist claimed that Salas had sold the lands legally and then escaped with the money. Schist then asked the sheriff for help. Local protesters opposed his so-called perfectly legal activities, and local native Rene LaRoque was sabotaging his facilities. Williams investigates this while trying to find an explanation for the missing people, some of which were found brutally murdered with plants growing from inside their bodies. Photographer Mike Plug and shaman Pete Horn tell Williams local legends about the guardian spirit, suggesting that it might actually be real. As the sabotage and murders continue, Williams investigates the swamp with Frazier and finds the previous sheriff's corpse. Medical examiner Val Mayrick admits that the previous sheriff had ordered him to file the deaths as alligator attacks, even if Mayrick believed otherwise. Williams and Frazier try to track LaRoque, who lives in the swamp, by using a canoe. At the same time, Schist sends local thugs, the Thibodeau brothers, to track and murder LaRoque. The monster then appears in the swamp and finds the brothers and kills them. Williams is ensnared by LaRoque, who admits to having helped Schist buy the lands. LaRoque then claims that Salas was opposed to the sale and insists that the guardian spirit would keep on murdering until Schist stops desecrating the sacred swamp. Frazier tries to help LaRoque, but the Man-Thing appears and unfortunately kills Frazier. LaRoque knocks Williams down and escapes. Williams then wakes up and finds Plug, who had blurry pictures of the monster, and seizes the photos and forbids Mike from coming back to the swamp. The following day, Williams interviews Horn and Schist with the help of schoolteacher Terry Richards. Williams then starts having romantic feelings for Richards. Horn goes on to the swamp and tries to stop the Man-Thing with prayers and sacrificing his own life. The monster kills Horn but is otherwise unaffected by his efforts. That night, Mayrick autopsies the old sheriff and finds a bullet. He tries to tell Williams, but Williams is back at the swamp, unreachable. Mayrick tells Richards and she goes to the swamp to find and tell Williams. Meanwhile, Plug had returned to the swamp trying to get pictures of the monster. Instead, he surprises Schist, who was in the swamp, to find and murder LaRoque. Schist then shoots and kills Plug. Soon afterwards, LaRoque ambushes and defeats Schist's son and minion, Jake. Williams then finds Mike's body and reasons that Schist murdered Plug. He then meets Richards, who tells him about Mayrick's autopsy. Williams concludes that Schist is guilty of several murders, trying to incriminate LaRoque simply to avoid punishment. According to Schist's confession to LaRoque, he murdered Salas and buried him in Dark Waters. Now, due to the magic embedded in the soil, Ted Salas returned as the Man-Thing. Richards reveals that she can guide Williams to LaRoque's lair, but the Man-Thing starts chasing them. He chases them to the drilling tower at Dark Waters. In the tower, Schist is aiming his weapon at LaRoque in an attempt to prevent LaRoque from blowing the tower away with dynamite. LaRoque nonetheless tries to detonate his bomb and is shot and wounded by Schist. Schist then also wounds Williams. However, the Man-Thing arrives and viciously murders Schist by filling his body with oil, as deserved. The Man-Thing then moves towards Williams and Richards. LaRoque sacrifices himself by shouting at the monster and detonating the bomb. The monster, however, survives the flames, but is then absorbed back into the land, seemingly as if its task has been completed, allowing Williams and Richards to leave unharmed. Well, this was a doozy. Taking into account the fact that this film was straight to TV release, It was not the worst thing I have ever seen, but it was definitely not good either. It was pretty gory at times, and quite goofy for the most part. So some may find this to be one of those so bad it is kind of good movies, but unfortunately I did not land on that side of the river. The narrative of this film was a substantial departure from the source material, to the point where Ted is depicted to be kind of an antagonist rather than good, or as shown in most times in the comics, a neutral force unless provoked. If we would compare this to the depiction of Ted in the Werewolf by Night Halloween special presentation from Marvel Studios, it is night and day in the portrayal and representation of the titular comic character. However, it is okay in terms of CGI, taking into account the production budget it had, and the base plotline is not all that bad, but the writing and overall direction as well as the goofy acting really overshadowed those kind of positive aspects. All in all, it is a 2 out of 10 for me. So, now that I covered the final Marvel Extended Universe movie that I wanted, we're moving on into the television world of the Marvel Extended Universe. In the following video that I will cover, we will begin our adventure with 2006 Blade the series. So stay tuned and do share your comments and thoughts below, as well as please consider hitting the like button and subscribing. I would truly appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for spending your time with me. Until our next adventure, y'all stay classy.